connected. You remember in the original Superman they had crystal technology. They were super advanced. Yep. Crystal technology mean they were using reflecting light. Y'all see that? They were reflecting light. But something happened on that planet to where it began to dissolve and decay. Right? So what did they do? They sent their son to another world. And what world did he go to? He came to Earth, and it's symbolic of what I'm talking about here. He came into the brain. Because what happened? He was a divine being dressing like common people.
And ego is kryptonite.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And ego is also the facade. Because look at this, and I'm getting on my comic book tip one time. All the other superheroes use their superhero as a secret identity.
Right.
His secret identity was a regular human.
Right.
That's who we are. Now, when they sent him from Krypton, what that's symbolic of was we were sending ourselves, because we had fell into an experience where we had to go through wearing facades, you know. What he living in was the Kents, you know what I mean? And he grew up odd because he was living how? Trying to be like everybody else. Okay? But at a certain point, what was triggered in him was the remembrance of who and what he was, when he said, you know what, I gotta get out of here, because he said, I'm more than this. Do y'all see that? So literally we are Superman, but we're trying to dress in this flesh, trying to compare ourselves to each other, trying to be regular humans. But when we get to a certain point and we realize that we are these Superman from here, then what happens, we begin to study truth, we begin to gather, we begin to become aware of the energies through the symbols around us that are depicting what's inside of us. And we start to act like that here. Because when he got old enough, he went and his parents said, you know what? Here are these crystals that tell you who you are. Crystals, symbols. Y'all see what I'm saying? Avatar, the same thing. With Avatar, when they were on the planet Pandora, right? Pandora in Greek mythology was a symbol for man. Because one of the words for it is a coffin. Y'all know what I mean? So they were connecting these things. But one thing I want to say about Pandora is that we are in Pandora now, we just can't see it. Do y'all remember, y'all saw the movie when they were talking
Pandora's
about
box.
You see Pandora's box and they opened it? You see what I'm saying? It would see that's the creator operating through a director's mind who's receptive to this, right? On some level, so that it can awaken as many down here as possible. Because in Pandora they said we live in a planet interconnected with energies. Y'all feel that? But guess what? What was it? The people, the truckers, you know what I mean? The miners. They constantly were destroying it. You see what I'm saying? This is the same thing we do when we're operating in the ego or the brain. We constantly are disrespecting the interconnected web of energies that we live in. You remember they were talking about everything uploads energy? That's the same thing. I'm giving you an example when you're dealing with the food, right? You deal with the food. Food is important because food, what it did was it translate energies to us. Because everything has intelligence in it. But we can't connect to that down here in this because we think it's something separate. You see what I'm saying? So that whole thing with Pandora was telling you the type of world that we live in now, but we have to have the same transformation as that dude Jake Sully had. He had to have a transformation of reprogramming his brain. You know what I mean? So that he could connect to those energies because they're here. All of those energies are here now. I've read a couple things. I'll be on the soapbox sometimes, you know what I mean? So just kind of go with me a little bit. I read these writings about some of the Africans' ancient oral traditions and from different cultures. And they talk about the same thing that I've seen in the scriptures. They talk about a time where people did not speak English. They said that, and they communicated with the fruits and everything, commanded them to grow when they needed them, and nothing more. So this thing is still here now, but the thing is this, when we're shut down in this, like there's a perception right now in the way we're conditioned that there's not enough food on the earth. Right. We're conditioned to think there's not enough space on the earth. Every human on the earth can live in South Carolina and have space. All 7 billion of us. But we're not programmed to think like that. You know what I mean? We think there's not enough food. All of these things are perceptions that are created based upon our being broken away from this oneness. The more we move towards this, right, and this won't sound crazy, but like I said, I got to speak from the future, right? The more we move back into this, which is what they were talking about in the scriptures, like we're talking about, it all relates to us, right? It's not a religious thing. When they're talking about let this mind rest in you that rested in him, they're talking about let this perception rest in you. And as we move back to this, what you'll see is this. You'll see things begin to grow with their full potential. You see what I'm saying? Like we talk about the ozone, science cannot fix ozone. But us connecting to this, all of it will react to who we are. You see what I'm saying? And it's based upon us reprogramming this and understanding how to connect with everything. Because I'm going to hit this one thing before I get you. In that movie, you saw they used to connect their tails to the tree of prayers and stuff. That's the life we live in. And the one thing I wanted to connect to before I get you is that when we're dealing with symbols, when we're dealing with words, right? When we're dealing with things, all of those serves as uplinks for us to connect back into the source of these spiritual worlds. So when you see things continuously speaking to you, that's an opportunity for you to connect and upload into what that energy is trying to communicate to you, so that you can reflect it back, if that makes sense. Go ahead.
I just thought about how science is talking about the Earth's pole shift, and it's portraying it as something disastrous. But if we are having a pole shift like Jacob did, then the Earth is just representing what's going on in the spiritual. So it's not a bad thing that it's actually shifting. It looks from a physical standpoint that all these things can happen, but it's just reflective of what's going on.